So with that, I want to introduce our official facilitator and hostess, Katie Farmand, who I just happen to have. She's the editor of Edible Orlando magazine. I just happen to have the latest copy that I picked up locally here. But Katie, she's very humble about her gifts, like you, Faye. So she wouldn't tell you this, but she's a bit of a local celebrity here in Orlando. And not only is she the editor of this magazine, but she has been the host of Delicious Disney. So that was a virtual program, I think, Katie, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also she's hosted, been on stage at Epcot's, Food and Wine Festival, doing food presentations. So she is quite the expert, and we're very honored to have her and Chef Wendy with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Katie. Did you already press record, by the way?
I did.
Awesome.
Remembered. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to you to sort of elaborate a little bit more about yourself, and then introduce Chef Wendy.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us. We're so excited. This was like one of those little fun ideas that kind of popped into Michael's brilliant brain. And we were so thrilled that he asked us to be involved. We love to talk about food and share food. And clearly you guys do too. So I'm so happy that you all are here joining us. And as Michael said, I'm the editor of Edible Orlando magazine, and we cover anything edible, really, food related in and around the Orlando area. But there are almost 70 other edible magazines throughout the United States. So if you're not local to Orlando, you might have one in your community. So I encourage you to look for that, because they are great resources on local food. And that's really where my passion lies. And so that's how I met Wendy, because Wendy is the chef of a great restaurant here in Orlando called Reyes Mezcaleria, which is a really beautiful, authentic Mexican restaurant. And Wendy knows authentic Mexican food because she was born in Mexico and raised in Michoacán. Is that right, Wendy? Did I say it right?
You did.
And she was, her parents had restaurants, right? So she grew up cooking, and her mom was a great cook. We were talking a little bit before you all joined us about how her mom cooked for her and her brother, and kind of let them taste cuisines from all over the world, which is really special. So that's where she gets her love of cooking. But then she went to the Cordon Bleu here in Orlando and was the executive chef at Tapa Toro, which is a beautiful Spanish restaurant, tapas restaurant. And then Reyes was lucky enough to snag her a couple years ago. So she's been with them for the last 3 years, right, Wendy?
Yeah, but two and a half, let's say.
Okay, yeah. So we're so excited that she could take some time. We said, what time is good for you? And she said, how about 5 o'clock, so then I can be in the kitchen and ready to go for happy hour, because happy hour is a really great thing at Reyes. So if anybody is from Orlando, I would, if you've never been to Reyes, you've got to go. If you have been, then you probably know how great Wendy's cooking is. I'm outside here in Orlando, and there might be a mosquito flying around my face. So if you see me, that's why. So before we get started, I just wanted to encourage you all to put your view on speaker view, because Wendy really will be mostly speaking. So that'll probably be the easiest way for you to sort of see Wendy. And if you're not on mute, please make sure to mute yourself, because kind of cooking in the kitchen can get a little loud, and you might want to, just in case you stub your toe or drop something, go ahead and mute yourself. So enough from me. Wendy, I would love to hear from you. So we're so excited about this dish. We talked a little bit before when we were getting ready for this about how this is kind of like a paella, really, but it's just called something different.
Yeah. So the most difficult thing about this dish is the name, right? The name is something that sounds it sounds difficult, right? So it's called arroz a la tumbada, which means rice in the style of tumbada, which is from a region in Veracruz, Mexico. It is similar to a paella, and another reason why I wanted to kind of get everyone loves a paella. It's a good thing to entertain people, and for me, I grew up with both dishes only because my mom, like I said, taught us a lot of different things. But it was very important to her that we learn things from our culture and kind of embrace that. Also, no one has a paella pan offhand, and if they do, good for you. I recently got one for my house, but everyone has a Dutch oven, or everyone has an oven that can go, a pan or that can go in the oven. I think it's very important. So the having the tools sometimes limits you. Like I want to make a paella, I want to make something, you don't have it, or it kind of limits, and I can't make it, and it kind of makes it a little scary. So putting it in a Dutch oven, something that can go in the oven, is fun, and it's easier for everyone else to follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then one thing that we wanted to note, that there's some interesting sort of ambitious seafood, let's say, in this recipe. So
Yeah,
you've got
yeah,
calamari and clams and all these wonderful
yeah.
things, but you were saying that you can really use anything you like and have on hand, right?
Absolutely. So the thing about cooking, right? The thing about recipes, it's about interpreting the way you want. I'm going to give you a classic dish the way it is, and you can interpret however you want to. Today, you don't want clams, you don't want mussels. You can't. They're not available. They don't look good. I think it's number one priority is to make relationships with your fishmonger, so that way you can build those relationships. I was telling Katie the other day, it's if I'm going to start cooking, going a little bit at a time so we can kind of talk and we're not just rushed in. So I'm gonna, in the Dutch oven's about medium high heat, I'm putting some olive oil. And again, you can use whatever oil you want. You don't want to, since we're going at a lower heat, you don't, doesn't necessarily have to be canola. I like a little bit of flavor in there. You can hear the frying happening. I'm gonna start with onions. They're diced, just small dice. Again, it's gonna be cooked down a lot, so you're not really gonna be able to tell what size it is. The smaller it is, the better it is. It's gonna be to cook down a little faster. We're always in a rush, right? We're always in a rush to cook, to get food on the table. So as I was saying, I'm just gonna have this cook down a little bit, stir it up. Wooden spoon or a spatula would work. So I was telling, make a good relationship with your fishmonger, right? Anywhere you go, because if you come and you ask me, hey, what is your favorite thing on the menu? What is your favorite fish and I always say when it comes to like buying protein is, what's important is what's fresh, right? I could love halibut and sea bass, but it's not in season or available or 5 days old. So you always have to talk to your fish person, and they will tell you what's fresh. Look in the eye. Jerry's not going to tell you that they're going to give you the wrong item because, hey, Jerry, what happened? My shrimp were bad last time. So it's very important that you always make that relationship and make that contact, because they're going to remember you. You're going to remember them, and a relationship's always important to kind of build. So yeah, at the point of, let's say you don't want to do fish, you want to keep it vegetarian. The stock will change. I'm using a fish stock or a shrimp stock, but what will change is the stock that you use, and also the protein itself. So let's say that I want to change it from seafood and I want to do some chicken. You would start searing your meat first, so you keep it up, season it with the paprika that we're talking about. We'll go into detail about that. A little bit of garlic. And once that's kind of seasoned, then you can sear it and get a good char mark on it. Try to use chicken thighs versus chicken breast. If you're going to use a chicken breast, then make sure you put that later on in the cooking process. Rice takes about 20-25 minutes to cook. You don't want to put it in too soon, because then you're going to have really dry chicken, or even the shrimp that we're going to be using.
Right. So we're just making little adjustments depending on the protein that you want to use. But otherwise,
Yeah.
kind of all the flavors are super simple and can go with anything you like, which is nice.
Absolutely. I like recipes that can be adjusted to my liking. What if I like it spicy? What if I just want to do shrimp? It depends on, how much celebration you want to be having.
Right. Yeah.
So Wendy, so far, what's in the pot so far? So we've got the oil and the onion and the tomatoes, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, we can.
But I have onions, I have tomato, I have olive oil, and I put in the garlic as well. Awesome. And if for those of you who are cooking, following along, you can smell the garlic kind of getting there. Also, something I really want to touch on, one of my favorite kind of secret ingredients is a bay leaf. These are fresh bay leaves. It has so much more flavor than a dry. It's not always available. Sometimes you can buy it fresh at Publix or whatever, but you want to tear them up. It's one of the things that I always put on in every recipe. I overuse it when I'm done. But it's that, what is that flavor? What is that? And it's kind of like, I call it my secret weapon a little bit. So you want to pop it in there. It's going to cook with the oil. It's going to cook with the sofrito. It's going to go in there. What other thing is going in there? You also want to hit it with a little salt, because you want to season along the way, so you're not at the end just piling salt on. I think that's what sets like a home cook and a professional cook, is you either salt at the end because you don't want to over salt it, and then you're like, oh my god, just put 5 tablespoons of salt. You're not really learning how to. So if you add a little bit at a time, you get to build those flavors slowly and slowly. So the other thing that I really love is Mexican oregano. And the difference is, but if you have Italian, oregano, which is what we kind of find in our grocery stores, unless you go to a Mexican grocer, it's a little bit milder. So you probably have to use a little bit more. As you develop this recipe, you'll get to see you can add a little bit more. But if you, I don't know if you can see, they're almost like whole leaves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I always have in my cupboard. And when you have oregano, you want to break it up. You want to break up the oregano just so the leaves, get out all the essential oils out of them and stuff like that. If you're seeing that your pan is sticking, that's okay, because you want that little fond on the bottom.
Yeah, when it sticks, it gets all those little brown pieces, and that's where the good flavor is, right?
That's my favorite usually.
I meant to say this earlier. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, or you can chat directly to me and I'll ask the questions. And then after the rice goes in the oven, then we'll have a little bit of time for like open Q&A, but we figured it would be a little bit smoother if I can ask questions, so then we can kind of keep on the cooking schedule.
Perfect.
So for me, my pan's looking a little dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more oil to it. But here's so far what's happening. It's sticking a little bit there, which is perfect. The sofrito's cooking. All the steam coming out there's all the steam coming out of it, which is great. I'm going to put the paprika in there now, which will help kind of fry it with that oil.
Wendy, when you say a sofrito, that means the mixture that you're making right now, right?
Yeah. So every culture has a sofrito. I'm going to actually pop in the tomato paste and then I'll go into that. Every culture has some kind of sofrito, some kind of holy trinity, or some kind of flavorful paste, if you will. So sofrito can be done, in different cultures. Like I said, have different things. For us, this one, you can make a big batch of it. And what I do is I make a big batch and I put it in containers just like this. And when I want to make it, this is half the battle. The hardest part is making the sofrito. So once this is done, you can save it. You can add some wine. You can do some pasta in here. I mean, this recipe is very, very versatile. So I really enjoy having that kind of like in my freezer and putting in a little cube. You can pop it in different places. And it's almost like a little bomb of flavors, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's that good building block. It's that base that thing tastes better once you've got those good ingredients.
Absolutely. It's always it's like when you're making tomato sauce, you have to reduce the tomatoes, get all the water out. If you have a base already, you're already kind of ahead of the ball game. You have to waste less time. This can be done a week ahead, 5 days ahead. You have the sofrito already. You're going to have a date night. You're having the kids over or whatever it is. It's a good way of kind of, developing all those and just making everything kind of fit your schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the paprika. For me, I use Spanish paprika, pimienton, sweet or hot. It's up to you how you prefer. You could do half and half. It gives it sometimes I use a little bit of both, like 50-50. So it gets a little bit of that heat, but it also gives that flavor. And I don't have to worry about, if I'm having someone that doesn't like spicy or something. At this point, I'm going to add the rice to this.
Paprika.
So I'm using...
Oh, sorry, Wendy. I was going to say paprika, though, is one of those things that, it's kind of a cast off ingredient. A lot of times it's what you put on top of deviled eggs or, what have you. But the really good Spanish paprika that Michael gave to some of you all and that Wendy's using now really actually adds a flavor. It's almost kind of smoky in a way, right? It's just
absolutely.
a beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives it that you've been cooking for 5 hours kind of feeling, but you really haven't. It's that secret
weapon. I like it.
It's a secret weapon. Oregano, if you're ever using it, even in your pasta sauce. The bay leaves is that background note, and then that pimenton that's smoky. It's definitely like, I've been slaving over this meal all day. I need a cocktail,
Hey, speaking of the paprika, I just want to interject real quick that the first 25 of you that signed up, I actually shipped those out last Friday morning. I think I've got my fingers crossed that most of you got it in the mail. I did get confirmation that many of you did. Yay. But Pete, you didn't get yours? Oh, you did? Oh, yay. Okay, perfect. All right. Sorry, Wendy.
No, you're good. So I made my own fish stock. So it's a little gelatinous, right? It's a little weird looking. But it's the more we break down fish all the time here. So instead of wasting it, I make a lot of stock and then we freeze it, we pull it out as we need it. But if you buy it, they have seafood stock, they have chicken stock. If you buy shrimp shells, you take them off, put them in your freezer, and then you can make your own stock. That's very, it's another good thing to kind of have. But if you notice, it's sticking, right? And then you see the little brown buildup. Whenever you add your stock to it, add a little bit at a time, which I did a little bit ago, like just a couple of seconds ago. And you're just gonna stir the bottom and make sure that you can kind of release some of that brown bits on the bottom.
Wendy, should we be rinsing the rice before we add it?
You definitely can. I guess it depends on what size grain you use. Latin America, we use a small, medium grain. So it's starchy, but not too starchy. Rinsing it off is always, I don't know, it's a cultural thing. I always rinse my rice for sure. But it doesn't have to. It kind of also gives it a different texture if you want. But I recommend for you definitely wash it.
Okay. And then another question was, how long can we keep stock in the freezer?
Oh, 6 months to a year.
So if you go to the trouble of making it, make a big batch and then stick it in the freezer.
Yeah, and even like when you buy rotisserie chicken, right? You're pulling the bones out, you're eating everything, save the bones, make a stock out of that, and that's roasted chicken stock. So
yeah,
all those are very good things to have. So I'm gonna add the rest. So I gave you guys the option of 4 to 6 cups of stock, depending on what rice you use. Some of us like to use a shorter grain, almost like arborio, and maybe that's what you have in your cupboard. This dish shouldn't be like, I'm gonna go buy these million ingredients. Sometimes you'll splurge and do that, but want to make sure that's something that you could definitely have available. If you have arborio or a longer grain rice, is fine too. So as this is going, I'm gonna add these lemon wheels. I keep them pretty big because then I could just fish them right out.
Wendy, in the past I love lemon, and but I've cooked with whole lemon before, and sometimes it's bitter and sometimes it's not. That's just a random question that just occurred to me. Do you know why it would be bitter if sometimes and not others?
Maybe the rind, how much ratio to rind. I'm not really sure. Maybe you're using too much.
Right, and
Not
that's
really
true.
sure.
Sometimes that white part is really thick on a lemon and it might be more bitter. So
Absolutely. If you don't want to use a whole lemon, you could use a peeler. And then your peeler will just extract the zest, and you can also fish that out. So as you can see, cilantro is beautiful. I love using the stems. Again, I just put that right in there because I think it's important to have. I'm going to season it one more time.
And that was just the stems of cilantro. You saved the tops for later.
Just the stems, yeah. I mean, I think you can also chop them up. I like to keep it rustic. I think the most important thing is getting people to sit down and spend time together, regardless of anything. And this dish will look beautiful as well. So it's one of those, like, you pull it out of the oven, it's a beautiful dish.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna add any of my seafood yet. I really wanted to come up to a boil. At this point, I'm just gonna cover it up and you can put it in your oven. You can put it, I recommend in the oven, especially if you're doing a large portion. Like if someone doubled the recipe, definitely put it in the oven, because when you put things in the oven, it cooks from all angles versus just cooking from the bottom. At this point, I'm just gonna cover it up because it is a pretty big pan, so it'll cook itself like that. I think it'll be good. And then as it cooks, we're gonna give it about 8 minutes, and then I'll put the things gently, just disperse them in there as they cook.
Sort of
as they're ready to go.
The seafood, right? And depending on cooking time.
Yeah, depending on cooking time. Definitely the clams will go next, and then I'll wait, and then I'll add the calamari and the shrimp, and you could add fish, you could add whatever.
So if we were doing this with chicken, because I thought that was such a perfect option, especially for a weeknight meal. If we were going to do a chicken thigh, you said we would sort of start it at the beginning because it kind of will cook along with the rice. And if we were doing chicken breast,
so you can do. Yeah, so if you're doing chicken thigh, you just marinate it, right? I think that the more flavor that you can give something while marinating it a little bit, and then your sofrito, which is already have a lot of flavor, it'll be great. And if you're doing a chicken breast, so let's say I'm starting the dish, I'll sear the chicken, season it, marinate it, sear the chicken breast, take it off, get a nice hard sear on it, take it off. You can either dice it or slice it, however it is. Start your sofrito, do your rice just like this. The last 5 to 10 minutes of cooking, you can add it in there so it kind of steams up and kind of finishes going. So it's not against it. I'm not against using chicken breast. It's whatever you guys want to use. It's just it doesn't give you that leeway. If you use like a chicken thigh, or if you're using something else, like it'll give you the leeway of like, oh, I'll let it go, let it sit there while my guests arrive or when, so and so gets off of work. And you're not going to have the problem of overcooking, because the worst thing is really dry chicken. Ugh, right?
Yes. Yeah, dark meat chicken is very forgiving. That's why I tend to prefer it, because if you forget about it, or if you overcook it just a little bit, it's not quite as obvious.
Yeah, it gives you some protection there.
Wendy, what is that cooktop that you're using that the pot is on?
It's an it's an induction burner. So I didn't want to go use a gas stove that we have, because I want it to be fair for everyone who's not using gas. I wish I had gas at home.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have gas at home, I'm moving in with you, so be ready. But it's an induction burner, just something that everyone can kind of use. So I know if I say medium heat, I know what medium heat will kind of be everywhere. Just something cool that we have.
Yeah. It looks so perfect for this class.
Yeah, we move it around. We do some cooking classes sometimes. Like we do team building things, and it's always fun to kind of move it around and just have someone else cook it and things like that.
I can tell. I think you've done this a couple times before, haven't you, Wendy?
I've been very fortunate in my short time in this career. I started when I was 14, cooking in my parents' restaurant. My dad was not into it. So I had to start it. I showed up to be the dishwasher, because that's how you start. And
Yeah.
he said no until my mom said, just give her a shot. If she wants to sit there and wash dishes for the summer, let her do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I had my Walkman and I'm like washing dishes, super excited. And my dad's like, are you serious? I'm like, it's something that it was something natural to host people and to kind of have people. I treat the restaurant that I'm at as my home, and I want people to come in and enjoy it and have a really good time. And something that my mom and dad really instilled in us is family time. And we don't get a lot of that versus, of course, these last couple of months, 8
Sure.
months we've had, but that sense of family, that sense of support. And, there's days that you get home from school or wherever, and, you had a bad day, or you had going through a heartbreak, and you're looking at your mom in the eye and she's asking you, how was everything? You're like, fine. And she wants to know details about how things are going. So food was always something that kind of broke the ice of starting. Oh my God, this is great. This is how your day was. And that's how she got to know how good or bad we were doing.
I love
Awesome.
that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to share that I have the luxury of living in Orlando, where Wendy's restaurant is. And I had never been to it about 2 years ago, I think, when I got invited to a birthday celebration, and it was being hosted at Wendy's restaurant. And so I show up, I've never been there before. There's a lot of food. It was like a whole big food spread for this party, right? And so I tried like the first thing, and I thought, man, that's really delicious. And then I tried the second thing, and I tried the third thing, and finally it was like the sixth or seventh thing. And I will honestly tell you, every single thing that I tried was absolutely delicious. So I can speak from experience at your restaurant, Wendy, that you're amazing from a chef perspective.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate, the thing that sets us apart from any restaurants. Like, we want to be a neighborhood restaurant so that people can come and dine with us. And I think what sets us apart is how we make people feel, how the food kind of flows. Like, not every day you're going to want a steak or seafood, right? You want to have something more casual, or something that you're celebrating, you're having a party. So we want to make sure that the menu is built for those occasions. And I'm on my anniversary date. Let me have a nice steak, or let me have some shrimp, or, hey, you know what? It's a Tuesday. I just really want a couple of tacos. And we have all those things. And I really want people to, it's like you're opening your refrigerator versus, you don't have to sweat or chop anything. We have it ready for you, but we definitely want people to feel at home.
Beautiful.
Wendy, I think something that I would love for you to talk a little bit about is how people think of Mexican food. They think of heavier things with, cheese or sour cream or fried things, chips and that kind of thing. But really, a lot of your food at Reyes especially, but I think a lot of Mexican food is really light and very fresh and flavorful. And,
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about like what really is real Mexican cuisine from your experience and where you're from.
Yeah. So, Tex-Mex took over everywhere, and it's great. It's time and a place. I love a quesadilla, right? But I think that in order for us to kind of educate people about the different cuisines, every Mexican from different areas. I have a lady from Oaxaca working, and our experiences are similar, but they're different all at once. So adapting and kind of learning how we can teach people to, hey, this is a healthy style of living, right? We can go keto anytime. You can do vegan, you can do vegetarian, you can do a lot of things like dairy-free, gluten-free. Most of our menu is that. And it's very adjustable and it's very adaptable. And I think that we have to let people know that the quesadilla is fine. Go ahead and have it for lunch, but come in and have a good fish and and some tacos later on. But yeah, it's a misconception for sure that Mexican food has to be heavy. It has to be filled with cheese or deep fried. But it's our job to kind of show people how things are a little bit different elsewhere.
You do an
So
excellent
I
job.
just, thank you very much. So I did this, it's cooking. I'm gonna bring it around. See if you can see the,
Oh,
right?
Yes.
so good.
Right,
I'm
it's
hungry.
still loose. It's still a little loose. Obviously, the rice is not cooked all the way, but at this point, the juice or the liquid, the stock has reduced down some. At this point, you add clams, you add mussels, something that's going to be cooked a little bit. That's going to take a little while to cook. These are going to take about 8 minutes, give or take. You know.
Might seem a
And
little ambitious, like I said, to cook with something like clams, and maybe you're not really familiar with it, but truly they're very easy, right?
oh yeah, I mean, who doesn't like clams linguine? Who doesn't like clams and clams diabla? Clams are something that these are local clams here. They come from Cedar Key. It's a husband and wife team who harvest them for us and bring them up. They harvest them early in the morning and drop them off in later in the afternoon. I think it's really fun to kind of try different things. And I was saying earlier, my brother was vegan for a long time, 3 years when we were growing up, and my dad and I were like, why are we getting punished, right? And then my mom realized that she had to, figure out how to keep us all happy in a sense, because she loved cooking for us. Every day at 3 o'clock we'd sit down and eat. So my mom learned a lot of cuisine about Thai food and Vietnamese food and a lot of Spanish cuisine. And we learned things, and she overcooked things, and she didn't cook them properly. But it was all about trial and error and about us giving us a different dynamic. And sometimes maybe splurging. I always think of a date night like, okay, I haven't done this before, and I'm gonna spring for the clams this time, and I'm gonna do something a little different. So, and also, when people come in and you lift the pan up when you're done, it's gonna be a whole beautiful presentation.
Yeah.
I'm only like 10 minutes away from your restaurant, Wendy. I might just have to drive over and have some.
I know. I'm so hungry.
Definitely
I'm
come.
jealous of all of you who are cooking at home, because I'm just sitting here with my stomach grumbling.
Yeah, Katie, let's meet there and just pick up some and go.
Let's do it.
Listen, we'll put it in a bag and you'll be ready to go.
Awesome.
I love that you
So yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, one pot meals are always so exciting for me because you get them done. You got one pan. Obviously, I'm putting everything in these little deli containers. At home, you're not going to. You just chop it up, put it into your thing, and really just cutting board, knife, and your Dutch oven, and it's really easy cleanup. Again, no fuss, and you can just come and it really takes 20 minutes to cook. If we weren't talking, it's just about the 20-25 minutes of the rice actually cooking. The seafood cooks super fast. So or the chicken or whatever. But yeah, I love these kind of meals.
Well, what's so awesome for our winners who have joined us today, Wendy, is I had several notes from ones that were like, are we following along, or should I just watch? I'm like, you can do anything you want, and you've made it so easy for everybody to follow along. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think approachability for food. I want people to feel comfortable. I want you to come to the restaurant, of course. If you live here, come visit us. But if you don't, definitely try this. Definitely try this paella, right?
Yep.
And I think that's such a key thing too, because if you call something paella and you see it has calamari and it has clams, and you think, oh, that's like, it's too much for me and it's out of my comfort zone. But like you said, just it's trial and error, and it's having fun in the kitchen and getting in there and tasting as you go and learning. And if clams tend to not be too expensive for us in coastal states, but pick something that, even if it's a little bit of a splurge, if you ruin it one time, you learn, and you can go back the next time and get it right. But I just, I think that's really fun and important. And I can tell that you developed a love of cooking because your mom made it so important. And I just love that so much.
Yeah, it was something that our day revolves around what we're eating for dinner. It was very that. It was just, what are we eating? We're in the middle of eating. What do you mean? What are we eating tomorrow? It's an event for us. Like, growing up, my parents worked so much and our vacations were very limited. So our vacation was like, hey, today we're having paella, or today we're going to go to Oaxaca and have this meal. And it was like, we learn about the culture and we talk about that. And I think it was very fun for us to kind of, every day experience something a little bit different, or this is something that reminds me of my childhood, but why is this, like, Vietnamese food for me is very nostalgic, very comforting. The cilantro, the chili, the freshness, the lightness of the food. is something that it's nothing to do with Mexican food, but it's very comforting. So to have that kind of spark a memory and spark that, kind of just makes your mind wander and, one day go to Vietnam.
I love that. Absolutely.
And
Someone
so the
is
Dutch ovens too, sorry.
someone was
The Dutch
asking about,
oven.
no, sorry, Wendy. Someone was asking about the times for different proteins. So do you have just like a basic, like if you're using chicken thighs, it's 10 minutes. If you're using breasts, it's 5. I know you said just go ahead and sear them off and then you kind of finish.
Yeah.
About
Yeah,
how
so your chicken thigh you can put in here, and just as long as your rice is cooked, your chicken thigh is gonna be ready. Also depending on the size, like sometimes, like if you want to do steak and rice, right? At this point, you would sear your steak separately, slice it, serve your meat, serve your rice, and then you can serve your meat on top. You can use beef stock instead of this. So it all depends on thickness, all depends on really, what sizes they are. But I would say chicken thigh will take anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes, right? So if and like I said, it's very forgiving. So if you're cooking it with the rice, 20 minutes, it's going to be perfectly fine. A chicken breast, I would say anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. Also depending on size. If you're chopping it up small, then obviously, 3 to 5 minutes is going to go. Fish also, like, sometimes I was selling, when you buy fish, if you decide to put fish in here, you can put any kind of fish, salmon, whatever is in season or whatever you can go and you can grab from your and I cut it into pieces where when you serve someone, you can have pieces and you're ready to kind of go. You don't have to worry about, I have to take it out, slice it. You cut it into the pieces that you want, and always ask for center cut fish, always, because the head is nice, but it also tapers off really, really thick, and then it goes down, right? So if you get the center cut, it's almost about the same length, same width around. So then you can cut it up however you like to. You can add mussels, you can add that. So I would say fish, I'm thinking a portion, 4 ounces per person, obviously much more if you like. Will take about, I don't know, 6 to 9 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes, right? And then also leaving it kind of, the fact that this Dutch oven has a really heavy lid, or you could do aluminum foil. The fact that it has a heavy lid, like you'll see the steam come out just when I open it. It's very, very, very tight, and it keeps the steam really, really well in there.
Nice.
Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, that was perfect. I love a versatile recipe. Like you can, and like you said, you could even just do this with vegetable stock, and it can be totally vegetarian or vegan as like a side dish to something, tofu or whatever you're eating. So that's
absolutely,
great.
absolutely. So I would do like mushrooms, right? You can start that with the sofrito. You can cook those for 500 hours. The only thing they're going to get is really soft. Eggplant, if you like. If you're going to do tofu, I always recommend to have different textures with tofu. You can toss it in a little cornstarch, do a little pan frying. You can, marinate it really well, get it really charred and seared in another pan, slice it, put it over the top. It's all about, you don't want to mush it and it looks like cottage cheese at the end. You should, just put that in there. But it gives you protein in a different way. You can have chickpeas. My mom made this a lot with chickpeas and cauliflower because my brother was vegan, and we needed to have some texture. You can do some potatoes. I mean, this dish is just the base for anything, really.
Endlessly versatile. I love that.
So we're going to open this dish now. And as you can see, I'll show you. I was shaking it around just so I'm not necessarily stirring it, because the more you stir rice, it's very glutinous. So you don't want it to look like risotto. You want it to still have some body. And let's see. The clams are slowly opening up. Can you see that?
Beautiful. Oh, that looks so good.
And it's still wet. It's not dry. If your pan is getting a little dry, you're like, oh no, my rice is still not cooked. You can add a little bit more stock. Don't be afraid. I'm never really good at cooking rice because I'm very impatient. I want things to go. But this dish, you can add a little bit more rice because the dish is not like, it's not a dry rice. Like paella is a little bit dry, but this one has a little bit of texture to it. So for me, I marinated the shrimp. I kept the shrimp tails on there just because I think it'll give it a little bit more flavor in the stock. I marinated in paprika, oregano, and garlic. And you could do that ahead of time, or you could just put them in there the way just the way this. It'll pick up some of the flavor from the sofrito. The sofrito is going to be very powerful. And again, if you decide to make the sofrito, and you could do it like 3 times the recipe and just kind of store it differently in little Ziploc bags, I think that it's pretty fantastic the way it is.
Nice. And
So once the shrimp are in there, right, I'm gonna add a little salt.
as the clams are opening and as you're adding the shrimp with the shells on it too, they're lending their own flavor as well to this dish and kind of making it all
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah, everything that we're putting in here will have really good flavor. Just like the chicken thighs, like I said, you'll just sear them and then finish, and all that will come out. Roasted chicken stock when you make your own, when you buy, there's such satisfaction to make different things and have them in your cupboard or in your refrigerator to pull out. Like, I made this chicken stock and I made this sofrito and I made this, and you can't grow the rice, but
yeah. Oh my gosh, the difference of homemade stock, really, it's just truly worth the effort. And it's so little effort that it's funny that we don't do it more often, because it really is like off once you just let it sit on the stove. But it's such a huge difference flavor wise.
And like for Thanksgiving, when we do the turkey, there's always leftover bones. And what do you do with this? And I don't want make stock.
Yeah.
Strain it out, freeze it. You always have it. Turkey, chicken stock tastes very similar, and you can use it for so many things.
Yeah.
So at this point, the shrimp are going in there. That's gonna take about 5 minutes, and then after that, the calamari will go. So I'll give it a couple of minutes to kind of get going, and then I'll put the calamari in there. And again, we're just kind of building the story of this dish. And kind of giving it a little bit of body, and you're not stirring it a lot. It's a very like, oh, I'm gonna walk away, do what I'm doing, pour me a glass of wine or whatever it is. This dish is fun to kind of just walk away from it, give it a second. It's 10, you could think about in 10-minute increments, 10 for the sofrito, 10, 15, and then 10 minutes for the rice. Then you could start adding different things. And it's very, I can smell my childhood cooking right now.
I love it. That's awesome.
What is your favorite thing that your mom and dad or mom would make for you?
Oh man, there's so many things. It's actually on my menu now, I guess I would say. They're enchiladas. They're made, when I was growing up eating them, we would make them with rabbit or chicken. But I'm doing it with duck here. It's enchiladas that are done we put them in a cast iron skillet, and it has some red sauce. The duck sliced on top with a little escabeche. For me, it's texture. Obviously, the corn tortillas is very nostalgic. The duck sliced, really roasted, really nice. I think I don't know, it's my favorite. Escabeche is this pickled carrots and onions and jalapenos, and they're kind of garnished on the top, so it gives it a crunch and it gives it a nice little acid that we always need. That's why I always put lime or lemon in food, because it always brightens it up. It always gives it that next level. Like, wow, like it kind of levels it up a little bit.
Sounds amazing. There was a question: do the clams have to open before we add the shrimp?
It doesn't. I had like the majority of mine open. I had 8 or 10 that opened up, and just keep it in there until you finish your dish. If it doesn't open, discard for sure. But normally they pop open, but some of them are stubborn. When you buy mussels or clams, don't put them in the refrigerator in a perforated pan or a strainer of some sort. Don't put ice in it, because they get shells. They get scared. They get cold. Like, unlike oysters, you want to keep them really cold. Clams, you don't. They'll thrive at 50 degrees a little bit better than. So yeah, if they don't open up, don't worry about it. Once you start serving them and you see one that's not, please discard it.
Yes. And also don't store them in a sealed bag, because I made that mistake one time and they all died before I even got to cook them. So
they drown.
Make sure that make sure your bag is open, or whatever container you're using.
You suffocated them, Katie.
I did. It was so sad.
I thought you were sweeter than that.
It was the very first time I was being ambitious and cooking clams, and they all died before I even got to cook them.
They suffocate. So definitely we want to take them out. So now I just added a little bit of paprika and I use paprika for this whole dish. So it's going to be nice and vibrant, right? At this point, you can taste your rice, see how it is. For those of us that are cooking, taste how it is. Is it about 80% there? Is it about 90%? Is it almost done? Right? All those things you can kind of check. You can turn down if it's almost done, you can turn it down. So that way the rest of your dish can kind of continue to cook. Let me see how mine's doing. Okay. At this point, I tasted it. I need a little bit more salt. I'm going to remove my lemons. If I can find them.
Mm-hmm. And the calamari is the quickest cooking thing, so that's why it goes in last. And it's pretty much after that, it's almost done.
Yeah. I only need a couple more minutes. How's everyone looking on theirs?
All you cooking at home. Let's see. I'm gonna make it so we have some thumbs up. Who's cooking with us tonight? A few of you, yeah. All right, we got some
You
thumbs
do
up.
have a thumbs up.
Oh, that looks so good.
Oh, it does look so good.
Oh,
Wow.
we'll have to have all of you cooking at home unmute and tell us what you think when you
Yeah.
get a chance to taste it.
Wow.
So I'm gonna rip up some cilantro, very crude, very, not pretty, and just kind of, let it fall randomly, right? And it'll perfume the rest of the rice, and it'll just perfume everything that you're wearing.
It's like a cologne for humans.
Right?
So someone is cooking at home and they're in the oven. It's cooking a little slower. Should she raise the oven temperature, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what she can do is take the lid off, and then she can put it right back in there. And she can raise the temperature. It all depends at home ovens. But what would you say the percentage of, or from 1 to 10, how much is her rice cooked? Is it cooked like 50% or 80%? Then I can tell you kind of a little bit more, maybe.
I'm gonna you can unmute if you'd like. I don't know your first name. I'm sorry, because I think it's B and your last name.
Bernadette. It's Bernadette.
Okay, Bernadette.
Hi.
She says 50%, I think. Hi.
50%.
Okay. I would raise the temperature for sure, another 50 degrees, and take the lid off. Let it kind of cook in there, and it'll kind of help you get that moving in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Next time what you could do is, I don't know how you brought it up to a boil or brought everything up to a simmer. Once that's kind of bring it, then you cover it and put it away so that way the pan doesn't go in there hot or cold, sorry. So maybe just getting that up to a good simmer, and then you can cover it and put it in there, kind of help you expedite that.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'm just so thrilled that so many of you are cooking along. I think it's really, not only do we have a great participation rate, but so many of you are actually going to have a delicious dinner tonight too. So win-win.
A dinner that I am very envious of right now. I'm not kidding when I say I'm so hungry, sitting here, just getting hungrier by the minute. So
Next time you'll follow along.
yes, I will. Well, I actually considered following along, and then I thought I probably wouldn't be a very good hostess because I would be too involved in my cooking. So but I've got the recipe, and I'm definitely going to try this.
Maybe I could come over to that one, Katie.
Yes, of course. We can eat.
You
out
can give
here.
me.
Yes.
You can give me her progress report so I know she
Yes.
listened.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is anyone else having trouble with theirs, or how are they feeling about a cook time and easeability,
Yeah, feel free
approachability?
to unmute yourself if you want to mention anything.
Hey, it's Mike Cowan.
Right.
I'm doing the oven as well because I've got a large Dutch oven like she's got. So I went ahead and already put in the calamari and shrimp and the halibut because I wanted that slower cooking on the halibut. I feel like it'll do it at the same time.
Yeah. That's cool. I love halibut. One of my favorite things.
Yum.
Yummy. Mike, you're quite the chef anyway, right? I mean, aren't you like known for your chef abilities?
That's what rumor has it. You keep threatening to drop in on the house. Oh, there's Todd. Yeah.
Apparently Todd thinks so.
I was going to say Todd is giving thumbs up over there, so he must give it.
Oh, I remember Jenny and Pam telling me that I think they, because you all live fairly close, and they came to one time. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you missed the best dinner that Mike made," and I was like, "Don't tell me."
Well, the next time you're in this, next time you come visit them, let us know. We're just 30 minutes away.
That's awesome. Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? I think since we have another little lull in the cooking time, if you have any questions, you can feel free, or comments or anything, you can feel free to just, as long as you're one at a time. I think you seem like a pretty good group. You know not to unmute yourselves all at once. So.
Hey, so this is Pete. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I've got a quick question. So I got the whole thing going. I'm a little bit behind you guys, but you guys are working really fast, but I think I got the gist of it. So I've got everything in the Dutch oven, and it's on the stove and it's simmering nicely. I'm gonna get the seafood in there, but do I have to put it in the oven at 350 at all, or can I do this all right in the Dutch oven on the stove?
Well, I'm doing it on the stove, just because it's not a lot of rice. I only have 2 cups, but depending on how much is like my rice was down here, so the surface area is going to be good. But if you're doubling it, if you're cooking for 6 people or 4 people, more than that, you want to definitely put it in the oven so it gives it that baking ability. But you don't have to. Definitely on the stove works perfectly fine. And this kind of is working like an oven. So for me, it was just kind of one of those things that you kind of just set it in there and kind of forget about it and add things as it kind of goes. But on the stovetop is perfectly fine as well, as long as you got a good seal on it, because usually, the steam will escape and then you're going to lose all that. But as long as you got a good seal on it, you're doing good.
Perfect. Thanks.
Anybody else with a question or a comment?
Well, I'm going to make a comment just to clarify for anybody else who may have had the same question that our COO Todd did. So for everybody on the call, I was on an earlier call with Todd, and he was very bummed that he couldn't make this particular call today, but he did try the recipe this past weekend, and he says, well, I just used regular paprika and it was absolutely fine and it was delicious. And I was like, yes, we needed to clarify, because I think the recipe that we published just said paprika, but in reality, as Wendy mentioned earlier, either a sweet Spanish or a hot Spanish or a blend of both or whatever is really her recommendation, right, Wendy?
Absolutely. I think it has a little bit more depth of flavor. The one that we put on the deviled egg, I don't even know if that even tastes anything. Tastes like anything.
Yeah.
But definitely get that smokiness. You can find them. You can find it anywhere. Usually it's labeled pimentón. Marshalls and Home Goods for some reason always has these like little gems of things that you can use. So it's really fun to kind of go in there. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah, they have these little Spanish jars. I don't even know why they would carry it there, but it's a thing if you ever go there.
They have really good sort of fun food things. They have like avocado oil, and they have different salts, like smoked salt.
Himalayan salt. Yeah, it's a
Like
fun place if you check it out.
Marshalls, like Marshalls discount?
Or Home Goods, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
It's
I've
fun.
got
It's
one.
pasta too. I love the pasta there. I always end up with like 3 bags of fun shaped pasta for my kids and myself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It kind of makes it, you're tired of spaghetti. You kind of look at a little bit something different. So how's everyone looking? For me, I'm there.
Are you there?
Nice.
I'm pretty much
Let's
there.
see it. We want to see it. This is exciting.
It is. Oh, all those good. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing.
And you see how it still has that liquid a little bit. I don't know if you can see it on the bottom.
Wow. That's like a picture, Wendy.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's why this is a good thing. Or you take it out of the oven and you're ready to go, and it's really perfect for presentation. It's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And you made it, I mean, of course, you're an expert, Wendy, so you made it look really super easy. I'm not sure that mine would look exactly like that, at least my first or maybe 30th time, but.
No, the thing about this is it makes you look like you know what you're doing. This dish, I definitely picked a recipe that makes me look good. So, but not everything.
How great if you're
great.
having people over for dinner, and eating outside or after COVID or what have you, but you're having people over and you take that lid off and all those steam comes up and there's clams and shrimp. You will look like a hero. You will look like a professional. So
exactly. You don't even have to wear a cape or anything.
No.
You'll be so
And
impressive.
you can.
Yeah, you can. You totally can wear a cape.
Whatever
Whatever you feel like cooking in is okay.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that looks so good.
Yeah. Oh my, I'm serious about wanting to go get some.
Well, it's ready.
It's there. Go, Michael, go.
I know, right? I'll see y'all later.
So there's a fresh squeeze of lemon on top.
Yeah, I like with seafood for me. I always do a little lemon and a little olive oil to finish. And then there we go.
Wow.
And if you're doing
Beautiful.
if you're doing clams, if you're doing mussels, you'll see the shells kind of poking out there.
Oh,
If none of
really?
your mussels,
It's beautiful. It really is.
thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it still looks beautiful. Still has all the love in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. That looks really amazing. And like I said, you made it look so easy.
Thank you very much. This will keep warm in there a good 10 minutes. The Dutch oven stays really hot, so it stays good. So if you're kind of, serving and starting with the first course and someone wants to get in there and dive in, they sure can. But other than that, I think we're there.
Yeah, okay, so we've had a couple of fun comments pop up. One is, it looks gorgeous. And the other one is, so any reservations open for tonight?
Absolutely. As soon as I clear this room, you guys are good to go.
That is so awesome. Does anybody have any comments or any final comment? We're actually just a little bit ahead of time. We were going to be from 5 to 6, but it looks like Wendy was so efficient and she got us a beautiful meal in about 52 minutes.
Somebody was asking about the calamari. Should
Look at
we
me,
do a whole baby calamari, or is it the tentacles and the rings, or do you have a preference?
Oh, okay. So anytime you can buy things whole is a lot better because it has less water content. If you go and you have the tubes, it depends on the size. Usually they have a medium, which is like a 5-ouncer, and then you cut it to the size that you want. Don't cut it too small because it overcook. Give it a good, like I call it a French fry size, nice and thick. So it cooks along with things a little bit, maybe the size of the shrimp, so it kind of cooks around the same time. Anytime you can buy anything whole or big fillet, or like if you're buying salmon, don't ask for cut up salmon like portions. Buy a pound, so you can get 2 or 3 portions out of that. And then same thing with halibut. Try to get it as the whole as possible, and center cut if you can. And then there'll be less water that is kind of in the fish. Or
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and we just had someone who's from actually on the Tampa area, or from the Tampa area. They said that they are going to look you up the next time they come to Orlando.
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah, awesome.
It is a fantastic restaurant, and it's a beautiful space too. So it's just like one of those gems here in Orlando. We're lucky to have you, Wendy.
Yes, we are.
Thank you I'm lucky to be here. Orlando has been really good to me.
Yeah, it's been in the heart of downtown. And don't forget, for all of you Central Floridians, if you see an edible Orlando, pick it up, because you're going to see a really fun picture of Katie. I noticed this, Katie. You're holding some kind of orange or something over your eye, I think. What is this? Okay, what is that picture?
That's our managing editor, Pam Brandon, who's also my mom, who's also here. She at her house. So, and that was my daughter, who is 8.5 years old, took that picture for us because we were here. We said we need to get an editor's letter picture. So let's figure something out. And we had a lot of fun because we couldn't figure out how to not feel really goofy. And then my daughter was there with my iPhone taking the picture. So I picked a tangerine off of a tree in their backyard and held it over my face, just.
I think Hazel's a budding photographer. Your daughter is a budding photographer. Yep. And just as another fun fact, since Pam was in the background there and you got to see her for a second. So Pam, Katie's mom, is actually the author of many, many Disney cookbooks. And so when you go to Disney, either Disneyland, Disney World, any Disney, and you look at their gift shop, like book rack, you're going to see a lot of cookbooks that say the Disney chefs with Pam Brandon. So she is actually the author of the chef. And she actually had, I remember asking Pam one time, I said, wow, that must be so interesting to like take these Disney recipes. She's like, yeah, the really fun part is, their recipes are for, feeding 1,000 people in your restaurant tonight. And she has to get it down to 4 to 6 people for dinner, right? So awesome. All right.
Well, that's always a challenge. I love it when people ask me recipes. I go, the recipe that I know feeds about 50 people. You need a giant pan. Okay, you might have to divide that by 8.
Yeah, exactly. Wendy, we cannot thank you enough. You did an excellent job, and I think everybody's very pleased with the results. And Katie, you as well. I mean, just an amazing job on hostessing as usual and as expected. I told everybody up front, I said, this is going to be amazing, and you did not let me down. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining. And I hope you guys, the ones that didn't cook, can cook this later on and kind of make it your own. And, if you post anything, let us know for sure. We want to know how you made it fit your family, fit your vibe, and just let us know.